and as I have realized it. Hare Krishna. So this is the great Sita Goswami speaking to the sages and Naimisharanya. By the way, Radha Maharaj said the number 80,000. 80,000 sages. And then he made a little funny joke about it that no, Srila Goswami did not use a microphone. Something to think about. 80,000 people are more than 2 football stadiums. Football stadiums about 30, 35. Yes, football stadiums full. 2 of them. And he's speaking with just his voice. And they all heard him without a microphone. So you see how dull our ears are becoming, Kali Yuga, compared to that time. So we're pathetic, but still Krishna's mercy is there, Srila Prabhupada's mercy is there. So we get to use Zoom and everything else. We just get a few of us to hear. But he spoke to 80,000 people and he didn't need a microphone. Definitely no computer. Definitely no Zoom. Definitely none of that. So we should be fortunate. We should feel fortunate that in our situation where our senses are so dull, that Srila Prabhupada is giving us a chance not only to go to Vaikuntha, but to Goloka Vrindavan of all places. How fortunate we are. Anyway, just to get to this point. So, Srila Goswami is telling the sages that all learned Brahmanas, when Shukadev Goswami recited Bhagavatam, see, he was there to hear Shukadev Goswami directly. And then when he returned to Naimisharanya, he was telling them what was going on. Okay, so that's when he was at Naimisharanya with the other sages. So Srila Goswami is saying, learned Brahmanas, when Shukadev Goswami recited the Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. First point. We have to hear with rapt attention. Sometimes we wonder why we're not getting anywhere in our advancement in Krishna consciousness. That's one of the clues. Do we hear with rapt attention, or after 2 minutes do our mind roam somewhere else and this and that, and then we wonder, and I'm part of it too. We wonder why we're not growing. Well, here's the first thing. Sutta Goswami heard Shukadev Goswami talk to Maharaj Parikshit, but he heard Shukadev Goswami with rapt attention. And thus, by the mercy of Shukadev Goswami, Goswami says he learned Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. He learned Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. 2 things. He learned Bhagavatam by hearing. And secondly, he's praising the position of Shukadev Goswami, calling him a great and powerful sage. Again, 2 lessons. We should hear from the right source, and we should respect the caliber, the spiritual caliber of that source we hear it from. All of that's important. And if we do that, we're going to grow. And if we don't do that, well, now, what can I say? So these are all there for us to learn. So if you Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada said, it's been said, like every word can teach you something. We've seen it now. A couple of words, something you learn. Great, powerful, learned, rapt attention. All of these are words, but every one of them carries a message. So now the truth is coming out. The Bhagavatam is that important and that powerful. Then he says, I have learned from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it. In other words, as it is, without any contamination, without any assumptions, without any speculation. Very important point. He's going to give it to them at Naimisharanya without any contamination, the same way he heard from Sukadeva Goswami. Srila Prabhupada says, when any devotee, and among us, all of us, it didn't mean anyone special. If you are a disciple or grand disciple, or even a bhakta or bhaktin, very much connected with Krishna consciousness and excited about it, and you want to share it, and if you share it without any contamination, you are playing the role of a Shiksha Guru. He actually put us that high. Why? Because when you share the Bhagavatam in its pure form, well, now that's what the pure devotees do. They share it in the pure form. So if you do the same thing, you're doing what the pure devotees do. So why can't he call you a Shiksha Guru? They are Shiksha Gurus. You're playing the same role. It's when we contaminate it and try to put all kinds of things in there, speculation, and then it's obviously diluted and it's of no use practically. So what he's saying is, when you are hearing Bhagavatam, hear with rapt attention, and when it comes to speaking it, speak without any pollution in it. Now, you may give examples connected to everyday life. That's just secondary. But the main thing that you're talking, you don't change that. Again, another lesson to learn. We haven't even got to the end yet. How many lessons we've learned for just that one? He said, I shall try to make you hear the very same thing talking to the sages in Namisharanya as I learned it from him, Sukadeva Goswami, and as I realized it, which means he had realizations on top of that. One text. First, he praises the Brahmanas. He says, "Oh, learned Brahmanas," referring to those who are ready to listen to him. Then when Sukadeva Goswami, controlling his senses, recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, who wanted to know what to do in 7 days. He was getting ready to die. Now, Sukadeva Goswami says, I heard Sukadeva Goswami with rapt attention. And then by Sukadeva Goswami's mercy, he learned the Bhagavatam. And he called him a great and powerful sage. And then he says, now, you that are in the Namisharanya, 80,000 of you, I'm going to try to make you hear the same thing that I heard, as I learned, and as I realized. So much. Now to the Prabhupada's purport. One can certainly see directly the presence of Lord Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam if one has heard it from himself, realized great soul like Sukadeva Goswami. First point. Srila Prabhupada says, we can see directly the presence of Lord Krishna. So now, those of us that cannot realize Lord Krishna, we go to the temple, we see the altar, we see the deity, but we can't see the deity because we don't have that premanjana, that salve in our eyes that Brahma Samhita says we cannot tell, even though the deity is there. He just looks like Krishna, standing straight, playing a flute. There is no emotion. There's nothing. And you see this over the what you just see the clothes. That's nice. Of course, they're material, so you can see that. Even though they're spiritual too, but our eyes are seeing the material. So in one sense, we're pathetic. We might as well admit it. We're pathetic. But we're still getting the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So we can't see the deity the way others can see the deity, like the example of Gauridas Pandit, if I remember. Gauridas Pandit, yeah. Prabhupada Swami talked about this pastime in Girinagri. He was holding a retreat, Memorial Day, and I happened to be there. Gauridas Pandit and his pastime with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. What happened was, Gauridas Pandit is such a very, very surrendered soul to Gaura Nitai, and they know it. So they were leaving to go a different place. I don't remember the names and places, but they Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda visited Gauridas Pandit at his place to tell him that they were leaving the area. Okay? Sounds like a very simple situation. The Lord is leaving, he's telling his pure devotee, okay, I'm gone. We're not going to see us for a while. Now, you know how pure devotees are. They really love the Lord, they're in their heart. And so if Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda come to tell Gauridas Pandit that we are leaving, what is he going to do? I wish they wouldn't leave. That's the first thing they're going to think. I wish they wouldn't leave, right? So what did Gauridas Pandit do, as Prabhupada Swami said it? He said, my Lord, is it possible for you to stay? I'm going to miss you. I'm just paraphrasing, right? It's the same thing. And so the Lord was so merciful. The lordships were so merciful. They decided that they will leave behind a deity of them. So with their own hands, they made a deity of Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda and gave it to Gauridas Pandit. So that's wonderful. Gauridas Pandit, he's a pure devotee. He doesn't see deities the way we see deities, those of us that are conditioned souls. So is that the end of the case? No, not yet. Gauridas Pandit gets the deities. So now if you're counting, there's Lord Gauranga, Lord Nityananda, Lord Gauranga Didi, Lord Nityananda Didi. Four of them in front of him, okay? So now they're saying, Lord Gauranga, Lord, now we get to leave. Can we go? Oh, yes, you can go. Now, what's going to tie? Going to tie is Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda with their hands raised. So Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda, they're standing there normally, but going to tie have their hands raised, the deities. That's what they left with Goridas Pandit, all right? So they look different in that sense. With just the posture, that's all. The posture only. Go to tie, have a hands up, and then Lord Nityananda stands, okay, well, we're leaving. So now Goridas Pandit looks at them and says, but the Lord is leaving. The deities are here, but the Lord is leaving now. The Lord is leaving. Said, no, don't go. Then he told them, well, now that you've made the deity, why don't you stay here and let the deities go? And Lord says, as you wish. So then they raise their hands. And then the deities put their hands down, and the deities started walking away. Well, that's why he says, no, wait a minute. Wait, no. I think the deities are going. No, the deities should stay, and you guys, you should go. So all right. So then they change again. Hands went up on one, hands went down the other one. They started moving. Goridas Pandit says, my lord, I think you should stay, but I also think you should go. And by the way, can you go and, well, maybe you should. Goridas Pandit got completely confused. This is the effect when a pure devotee sees a real deity. Okay, that's the point we're making. We don't have that kind of, but still, we get somewhere. We can get somewhere with this. So it's a very interesting pastime. You can imagine the devotees were laughing so much when they heard. Goridas Pandit got so confused because he loves Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And then he loves Gonitai. But that's the same people, too, right? So Krishna consciousness can be very, very, very interesting if you get into it. This is what Sridhar Goswami is asking us to do. If you listen with rapt attention, the sweetness begins to come out. The sweetness begins. That's all it takes. Sometimes we think we have to do something special. No. Chant steadily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, which means we have to chant with rapt attention too. So then how do you do that? Well, His Holiness Sachinanda Swami is giving so many workshops on it. And I thought about that because I also want to chant, my little self chant with attention. And so just thinking about it, and I do think, now that I'm retired, I think about a number of things. And so about chanting, earlier on, sometime last week, in preaching on Zoom for Harrisburg, my Guru Maharaj just literally gave me this idea. So you can chant, and the more senses you use, the better. You chant the holy name, and when you chant out loud, then you can hear. Then your ears also help. By the way, there are living entities all around you too. They're called bacteria. You can't see them. They also are souls. They also can hear. They also benefit. So it's wonderful. You can, all of that. You can see the deity, but then the thought hit me. Very simple thing. Don't we read? Yes, we read. Anything we read. If we're reading, aren't we paying attention to what we're reading usually? If you're reading, your mind doesn't go off. If you're reading, okay? So then I thought, what if I write Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, on something that's printed out and put it in front of me, plus whatever deities, but have that in front of me. So if I look at the words and I look like I'm reading the words, then my mind is not going to go anywhere because I'm used to reading, okay? So that became one of the things we suggested. And the body said, yeah, we'll try it. Okay, so at that time I said that what came to me is print it nicely, okay, and then put it maybe in a nice picture frame and then set it down so you can, Then they hit me again. That wasn't the end of it, but I said, but then when you are doing Japa on the road, or you standing someplace, you're not home, and you don't have your nice little placard of that, but then what do? Then the thought hit me. Listen, You can take something very simple. I'm trying to find mine. Post-it pad. Post-it pad. You can write the Hare Krishna mantra on that, and then you can just take it and paste it anywhere and look at it. In fact, I've done that in my bedroom. When I told my wife, she said, yeah, I noticed what you've done. Yeah. So I wrote the Hare Krishna on here, the one that's upstairs. So then anywhere that you sit, you can just post it on maybe whatever that it would stick on. And now you have the words, and now you can look at it and pay attention and read it and chant. Right? So it's like you keep thinking about different ways. I'm not a magician, believe me. I just keep thinking, my goodness, how they said we should chant. How do you do it? Then one idea after another. Next thing you know. Now, did I ever think about post-it parts for Hare Krishna mantra? But it's possible. It's possible if you are open. That is, some people are a little bit conventional and they don't like. Well, it's up to them. I'm thinking out of the box. That's all I'm doing, and how I can chant and chant steadily, and I'm sharing it. That's all. Srila Goswami is also sharing exactly what he heard. So now Srila Prabhupada says, continuing the purport, one cannot, however, learn Bhagavatam from a bogus hired reciter whose aim of life is to earn some money out of such recitation and employ the earning in sex indulgence. Now, so Srila Prabhupada says, you cannot learn Bhagavatam from a bogus hired reciter. Why? You say, but the reciter also recited the same words as in Bhagavatam. How come we hear and we can't learn? Well, he is not bona fide. He's not bona fide. If he's doing it for money, then there's motivation. But the reciting is devotional service. And the Bhagavatam, it says, Savaya Punisam Paro Dharmo, Yato Bhakti Ahoksiji. The best job, to speak in American terms, is to do that service, that which satisfies Krishna's senses. And then it says, ahoy tuki, ahoy tuki. There should be no motivation. Now, if this person is out for money, obviously the motivation is money. And then also it says that patiyata, you shouldn't stop, you just keep going. But here, he is patiyata. Patiyata is motivation. Apatiyata is no motivation. So there's motivation there. And if there's motivation, how can that service work? It can't. It can't. So that term tells us to do devotional service, including chanting, there should not be any ulterior motive. And this person wants money. So it's ulterior motive. So immediately, that chanting, whatever he comes from Bhagavatam, is of no use. It won't have any value. Okay? So this is what Sri Prabhupada says. And then he says, even take that money and employ it in sex indulgence, which is even worse. Because illicit sex is one of the most horrible of the four regulated principles. That's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's discussed there. That Sri Prabhupada, one purport, I forget the text, otherwise I had to pull it up. It's Madhya, I think 17:140. I saw it the other day. And in the purport, Sri Prabhupada says, one must obey the four regulated principles. And when it comes to people who are unfortunately breaking them, the illicit sex one is the worst one to break. Yagi came out and said it. It's there. I think Jared Thakur or something. That's that one, that particular verse. In the purport, it says that. But anyway, we'll just continue. So no one can learn Srimad Bhagavatam who is associated with persons engaged in sex life. He brought it up again. That is the secret of learning Bhagavatam. So he seems to say that one of the things that block us from growing spiritually is indulging in, when he says sex life, he means illicit sex life, because there is sex life according to regulating principles. Krishna says that. That is when a married couple, wants to deliberately have a child, not just tried by accident they had a child, deliberately have a child, and they prepare. The best actually is to have the samskara called Gavadan samskara. If there's a priest that can do it, you go through that. And then Sri Prabhupada says, if you do that, you can chant 50 rounds also, 50 rounds, okay? Before then, you and your spouse seed to try for that particular child. Now, when that's done, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj explained some time back that Krishna would arrange to give that couple a soul who is fixed up, either wanting to continue the bhakti to get to the end, or in fact, there's someone that's sent without the couple knowing to actually help to elevate Krishna consciousness. Literally, not everybody that's sent is announced that Srila Prabhupada coming, no, not necessarily. He was coming to spread Krishna consciousness the whole world over. Okay, so that it was in the Bhavishya Purana that he would come. But there are devotees who are also pure devotees from the spiritual world who assist Srila Prabhupada. And they're not advertised that this person, that person, that person, but they are all assisted. Some of them are gurus, some of them are pujaris. They're all over the place. A few of them that assisting like that. So if you go through, if you don't, okay, let's talk about governance and skara. Not everybody is going to get an opportunity to have a priest who knows it. And so Srila Prabhupada says, at the very least, the day before seeding, you and your spouse should do 50 rounds of japa each. So start early, and you can break it up, but by the time you decide to try for the child, both of you should have finished 50 rounds of japa. They told us in Gitanagri, we did that. And to this day, people think our girls are very nice, but we know what we did. All we did was follow the process. And now we got devotees, they play kirtan the whole time. We don't have to worry about them playing kami music and stuff. They just, as they grew, they got better and better and better. I don't take the credit. My wife can't take the credit. We just followed the spiritual master that says chant 50. We chanted 50 each and tried it. And of course, we continued also, when she was pregnant, she was in the altar, they were here in class, they were here in bhajans, they came out all fixed up. It's just that simple. Okay, so it's very, very important. So sex life has to be used for the purpose of Krishna consciousness, and that's what we describe. Srila Prabhupada says, no one can learn Bhagavatam from one who interprets the text by his mundane scholarship. That's called speculation. That's called speculation. Mundane scholarship, mundane things don't fit in with spiritual. The material and spiritual are not together. They're separate. So then if you take the mundane scholarship and try to use that to explain the spiritual, you're going to talk, excuse my language, gibberish. It's not going to matter. It's not going to make any sense. But you might think, oh, you're just doing a wonderful job, and some people like that, the scholars, the universities, and Papa talked to, now I remember, another video. So there were these professors, and Papa met them. And he was very nice to them. Some of them actually became quite favorable to Srila Prabhupada. But at the time, one university, I think it's California, there's a video you see about 8 of them standing there, and Srila Prabhupada facing them in the afternoon in his, saffron robes, and they're wearing their shirts and ties and everything. And then he's telling them, do you know God? They said, well, we know of him, but do you know him though? He said, no. Okay, well, Srila Prabhupada knew they were going to say no. Then he said, but you don't know God, and I am presenting God to you, Krishna, so why are you not accepting? And they all are just as quiet as I am quiet now. They're looking at him, and the video is rolling, and nobody's saying a thing. Then he repeated it. He said, you say you do not know God. I know God, and I'm presenting him to you, Krishna. You see the deity? Why are you not accepting? So after a while, one of them spoke up and said, I agree with you, Swami. I agree with you. But maybe our upbringing, we weren't told who God was, so we have a problem. Mr. Papa says, if you believe in Krishna, not only are you going to be a good person, you wouldn't even hurt an ant. So he started preaching, and they all kept quiet and listen. What can you do? Jagat Guru started preaching to them. And in the end, they really praised him, right? But they were stuck. They were stuck at first because they don't know God. If you don't know God as Krishna, you really don't know God. Bottom line, you don't. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. How many people know that? Devotees, how many devotees are in the world? Very small. Percentage-wise, very few. Everybody else is saying this one, and then they say that worse in this chapter we just finished. The 19th and 20th incarnation is Krishna and Balaram. I'm going, what? So it says that therefore everybody came, now the Muni came before Krishna came. Now how confusing can that be? You just you add the numbers. This is speculation. This is what they're talking about. Speculation. Everybody that came before number 19 came before Krishna. And Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Mudha. This is exactly why Krishna says, no permanente. I don't want to go to it. I know permanente naradama, maya, parata gyana. This is why. This is why Krishna, sometimes Papa says, Maya has stolen the intelligence. Some people say, Lord Vishnu came before Krishna. So then we sat down and said, all right, hear this. This is the devotee that, after a lecture, he came up to me, and I wasn't the one to give a lecture, but I don't remember, but there was a discussion between him and me. Very sincere person. He says, well, we've been taught, in the Hindu tradition in India, this was serious, that Vishnu came before Krishna. Then I said, all right, but what we've heard of Srila Prabhupada is Krishna expands, the first expansion is Balaram, plenary expansion. Then after Balaram come the four, we call them Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Anirudh, Sankarshan, and Pradyumna. Now we haven't mentioned any Vishnu yet now, okay? Vasudeva, Anirudh, Sankarshan, and Pradyumna. And then they expand to Lord Narayan of Vaikuntha. And Lord Narayan expands to the second Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, and Pradyumna. And the Sankarshan of that, the second one, expands to Mahavishnu. It's the first time you hear Vishnu. See how far down before you go? It's not like they're not down in quality. They are all same, potency. But according to the expansions, you go to Balaram, then first Chaturvyuha, 4, and then Narayan, then second Chaturvyuha, and the third one of the 4, it expands before you hear Mahavishnu, before you go to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, before you go to Shirodakshaya Vishnu. So when I explain that, he goes, oh, okay, I get it. All right, so it's clearly Krishna came before Vishnu. I said, thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Okay, so it's not his fault, but at least he talked about it. So that is not a speculation. He actually believed the wrong thing, and he accepted when we corrected. But there are some people that will say number 19, number 8, whatever. I'm going to get into that. This is so bad. Speculation. This is Papa is talking about. No one can learn Bhagavatam from one who interprets this by his own counting, mundane scholarship. One has to learn Bhagavatam from the representative of Shukadeva Goswami and no one else, if one at all wants to see Lord Krishna in the pages, which means you have to go to the bona fide representative of Krishna who's preaching it like it is. And if you keep your heart, you give your heart to it, then of course, Krishna will reveal himself then, if you give your heart to it, which means you shouldn't be offensive. Aparat stops everything. So if we get an anxiety, why should we get an anxiety? Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, Nasochati Nakankshati. When you come to that stage where you really believe Krishna fully, there is no reason to lament, there is no reason to hanker. Why? Well, now you say Krishna owns everything, and I am Krishna's servant of a servant of a servant, and he's kind. So if I need something, if I really need it, and he knows I need it, why would he not give it to me? If I needed to serve him, he would say no. Well, now if he's not going to say no, then why are we lamenting? What's the point? There is no point. If you believe in Krishna, there is no point to hanker after anything. Anything you hanker after material, you're going to die and leave it. Okay, so it won't help you very much. And if you lament for something that you don't have, then you are trying to control how things should be. But you're supposed to be a servant. I didn't get this thing. Oh, so you want, so now as soon as you say, I didn't get this thing, you want to control. So now you move your position from servant of servant now to master, but you're not supposed to be master. So see, we cannot afford to lament or hanker. As soon as we do that, we're in Maya. Just like that, we are in Maya. So when we begin to realize that Krishna consciousness is very, very straightforward. All you do is give your heart to Krishna. Give your mind to Krishna. Therefore, give your soul to Krishna. That's what we're saying. So rather than go about your day by, all right, I've said my prayer, I've finished, I've changed my round, I've finished. Now I have to decide what happens to me the rest of the day. Wrong. Sorry, that's wrong. You have to give your heart to Krishna. And so the prayer should be, dear Lord, whatever happens to me today, whatever decisions that come, let it be approved by you. Everything should come through you. You pray like that. Every prayer is heard. My Guru told me, every prayer is heard. So if you really genuinely pray that Krishna should run your life, then it becomes very interesting. You believe me, some of us are practicing it, so we're not joking here. What happens is you go around, you go along your day's work as if it's just okay. Everybody sees it that way. But inwardly, what's happening is every turn you make, you see that the decision that comes is a decision that you couldn't have thought of it that well. You feel that there's a difference. And sometimes some people show up and help you in certain things that you didn't expect. Some things happen. Those things that you don't expect that happen, every one of them is under the category of miracle. So then your life has actually quietly become miraculous because Krishna is controlling it. And you know Krishna does everything. We can't do a lot, but Krishna controls everything. So to him, if he gives you something you don't expect, that's nothing to him. But it's a miracle to you though, because you couldn't have done it. So then your life goes on that way. So quietly, so sometimes when you see some of us smile, that's why. Because we know that if we give our heart to Krishna, he does it one after another. So there's nothing to it if we just humble ourselves and not try to be the controllers of everything we do. And I mean everything means everything, material and spiritual. Krishna owns material and spiritual. So when he helps you materially and he helps you spiritually also. Don't think that the material is for you and spiritual is for him. No, you're making a mistake. Give it all to him. That's called full surrender. Atman Nivedanam. When you give everything, my house, my family, well, those are material things. You even give it to Krishna. Doesn't that tell you that? So give everything to Krishna. And if you give to Krishna, Krishna says, Ye atama papadyante tam stiteva bhajamyaham. You give to me, I give to you. You give a lot to me, I give a lot to you. Now, if Krishna gives a lot to you, don't you benefit wonderfully? Krishna is Atmaram. Does he need anything? Of course not. But you're the one that needs. So if you submit yourself to Krishna fully, then whatever you need, he takes care of. Now, he will not give you things, material, for you to fall in Maya. That he will not do, because he knows that then you can't go back to Godhead then. So you have to constantly think of Krishna. Man mana bhava madmato, man naji namaskuru. He says, Krishna says, man mana, always think of me. Now, that's what we talked about. If you take a cell phone or some music playing device, go to YouTube, get Sri Prabhupada's lecture or Sri Prabhupada's japa. There's one that sometimes 10 hours, almost 11 hours straight of japa. Turn it on. You can listen to the headphones, or you can put the cell phone down somewhere that you can hear and let it chant the whole day. We do that now, the whole day. And when it's getting to 10 hours, that end, you just go tap it, and then the little orange thing, you move it back and go to the beginning, and it continues. The whole day, the whole night. Now, if Sri Prabhupada, the pure devotee, is chanting Hare Krishna, obviously your room is purified. That's one. And second, since you hear the chanting of the holy name, you will obviously remember the holy name and think of Krishna all the time, because Prabhupada is chanting Krishna's name. How can you forget? So that way, simple electronic way of remembering Krishna, just listen to Prabhupada chant the whole day and you get to remember Krishna, just like that. So remember Krishna, man mana bhava bhato, become my devotee. Everything the devotee is supposed to do, the 9 processes, do it. Hear, chant, pray, worship the deity, everything that you can do that. Then he says, offer obeisances to me and also worship me. Do you offer obeisance? You offer obeisance to the spiritual master also, because that's his representative. And then you offer obeisance to the deity. It's very simple. It's a question of doing it and be determined to do it. That's all. Because if you do it, Krishna will give you what you've been expecting, the growth in spiritual life that has not happened all these years. Take it like that. Take it simply, step by step, every day do the same thing. I mean, personally, I don't think there's much to it to just push it above us lecture, I mean, this tape, and have it play the whole day. What you just set it on, that thing plays by itself. 10 hours before you go to nighttime, you put it at the beginning, the whole night is chanted. You don't sleep 10 hours. You get up in the morning, there's still going on. So this is things that we actually are doing now. So we all can, I'm not saying we're not better. My wife and I are not better. We're just thinking about these things and we're sharing. We're doing it and we're sharing it. We want everybody, we all, spiritual myself, want everybody to grow and get back to Godhead. That's his aim. He wants to take us all back to Godhead. So whatever he shares with me, and Bhakti does share quite a few things with me, even though she left the body, we're just sharing. Simple things. Constantly, I'm praying to him. Constantly, he's telling me, do this. You're a scientist. All right. So now you need a cell phone. You use it like that. And then on and on and on and on. Then I come and share it. And I do the same thing. That's all we're doing now. Hare Krishna. So anyway, let's, I'm looking at the time and end it here. I apologize if you think that I'm bragging, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm just saying as it is. Okay. I'm just happy to share it, with you. I'm no better than you. But if something works, then you share it so that everybody uses it. So Sukadeva Goswami is a bona fide, Sutta Goswami is a bona fide representative of Sukadeva Goswami. See, that's the point. Sutta Goswami heard from Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, since he's heard from Sukadeva Goswami, who is pure, then Sutta Goswami is automatically in that position of purity, because that's where he heard it from the right source. So he's going to preach properly. And not only that, in the text, he even honored the Brahmanas. He started by saying, "Oh, learned Brahmanas." That's how he started. That was the audience now. Now, how many people go to school and the students are sitting there and the professor said, "Oh, learned students"? You ever hear that before? Of course not. You never hear that. You just come boom, 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 boom on you. Keep quiet and listen. That's the common way of teaching. But the devotee way, the devotee that's preaching even honors the students first, those who are going to hear. Not to mention he doesn't use a microphone for 80,000 people, but that's another thing, So this is so sweet. We have made Krishna consciousness a little more mundane than we should. So we got to look at our own self in introspective. How can I improve? That's what we're doing here. Same thing I'm doing. Okay. So now to end it, hearing is not all. Simple hearing. One must realize the text with proper attention. So when we pay attention, the Prabhupada says, we are going to get realizations from it. That's what he's saying. And Sutta Goswami drank, now he goes deeper. Sutta Goswami didn't just hear, he drank the juice, which means the Bhagavatam was that sweet. And it's coming from Shukadeva Goswami, and Shuka is a parrot, and when parrots, it's explained to us, when it puts the beak into the fruit, it becomes sweeter. So then he made it sweeter, and Sutta Goswami benefited from the sweetness, and now he's giving the sweetness as it is to the sages in Naimisharanya, so they can also benefit from the sweetness. And then we here get to hear a little bit of it too on Zoom, right? This is all wonderful. Hey, Krishna. Okay, anyway, just pun intended, pun intended. So anyway, no one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating. Oh, let's talk about this last bit, because this is a very, very, very steady one thing to another. This is Prabhupada said. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. So in other words, take out the offenses. If it comes to one, goes out the other. Don't keep it, because that's what's going to block you from hearing. So pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. Well, now what you think of is what you normally do. So my Guru Maharaj put this sequence together. It says, be careful of what you think, because your thoughts can become your words. Be careful of what you speak, your words can become your action. People think, and then they have words, and then the action. And be careful of your action, because your action may affect other people too, when people who copy you, especially if you have influence. And you do something, they all want to do the same thing. So if you do something bad, like those who are popular, Then, a band called Crisscross, they wore their pants backwards. So everybody that was popular, they also wore their pants backwards. It's so mundane. But the people just copy like that. Mm? And after this, be careful about when people copy like that. Then a whole bunch of people are doing it. Now it has become the culture. So see, from just thinking, then speaking, then acting, and people seeing your act and copying it, and a whole bunch of people copying it, it becomes a culture. So if it's good, it becomes good culture, what you did and said. If it's bad, it becomes bad culture. So that's the point he was making, Maharaj is making. So no one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating, which means we have to spiritualize all of it. Eating, eat prasadam. Sleeping, you have to sleep praying for you to be used. Even your subtle body can be used in service when you sleep. Even that's there. Fearing, well, sarva dharmam paritaja mamekam sharanam bhaja aham tam safa bapebhyo mokshayishami masuchaha. Masuchaha. Worrying and fearing is with Krishna. You don't do anything there. He takes care of that. And of course, mating, as we talked about, you have to go through the samskara and all of that. So purify all of that. And it says, so now after all of this, if we are still falling, there's a mercy. The mercy is from somebody like Sri Prabhupada, who is pure, who is speaking. So if we're not doing anything so well, but then if we hear from him, his mercy is going to help us to still, in the end, see Krishna in person. As you know, he said chant only 16 rounds and not 64 rounds. Already he's given us a good 75% break, and still we're going to be able to see. So that's end the Bhaktivedanta purport to the first canto. Krishna, this is chapter third chapter. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And excuse me for sometimes my outbursts, but it's just it's simple. It's simple. Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for nice class today.
Krishna's mercy.
So I noted some of them, and also like Sukadev, Sutta Goswami heard from Sukadev Goswami with light attention and everything, and he said great sages, and he's a very great with a great attention he heard.
Yeah.
So that's how.
Yeah.
And then after he told Parikshit Maharaj, and then we are hearing here from you, Parikshit Maharaj, Prabhu.
Parikshit Das. There's a difference. Big
Das.
difference.
Okay.
7 over 7 over 7.
That was the first point I had today. And it was so good. And then Gauradas Pandits,
Gauradas Pandit,
confusion. Leave or not to leave.
Yeah.
We all think that like that, but he was very good and such a big Pandit. He did like that.
That was Rupa Swami's mercy. I heard it from you.
And that was very good. And then the third one is about chanting and hearing and those things. It was really, really something. And then one more question, like you said, when do that when they want child or something like that and chanting. But even Prahlad Maharaj, he was listening from the beginning, and he had so much mercy, and that listening also. Parents won't do also, but listening.
Now, speaking about that, that's very important. So there are different processes, of course. That if you do it purely, you can go back to Godhead. That's been said. If you hear purely, you can go back to Godhead. That was what Maharaj Parikshit did. He heard. He never chanted. He just heard, and he went back to Godhead. Akrura prayed, prayers. So Prahlad Maharaj already talked about. Now, what's been explained to me, and I have to definitely support this because it came from Guru Maharaj. Not only that, but it's true. It's very true. We don't do any of these processes purely. We don't. Let's admit it, okay? If we could chant purely and do nothing else, we go back to Godhead. If we could hear purely, but we just get sidetracked sometimes, and we chant and we think about this. And worse, sometimes the people that we hate, they come to our minds. Somebody says something bad to me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. That devotee, he did it, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and it's all it's going on. So how can that be pure chanting? It's not. So what was explained to me was, and the Bhakti Maharaj explained, so the mercy is this. The mercy has been given to devotees so that since we don't do any of them purely, if we do more of them, would partly okay, then it adds up to a little more spiritual credit. So we can't get 100% chanting. So then if we do like chanting is 40%. All right, well, Didi, well, 30%. Hearing 10%, then it's adding up, like that, and we get the mercy. So that's our situation. We're not pure, but somehow if we do all of this, then Sri Prabhupada's mercy tops it all up. So, all right, okay, you get to go back to God there. So we are a mercy case, but we're fortunate too because of Sri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
That was really, really good. Today we had to pay attention and to listen to. And today from this Parikshit Das Prabhu, we heard a lot of things. In fact, I myself...
You're trying to give me credit that I don't deserve?
That's what you said, Prabhu. Like Sukadev Goswami from Sutta Goswami, from Parikshit Prabhu, Parikshit Maharaj, Emperor, he heard. And I feel like that from Parikshit Prabhu, I'm listening to. That's what I felt.
I won't fight you anymore, but all glories to Sri Prabhupada, all good.
that was really with wholehearted helps make spiritual. And if we pray that Krishna, but he gives heart to us, that's what I learned from here today.
And your point is very important. See, you are talking with your heart, you're putting your heart into it, what you're saying. I'm putting my heart into it and what I'm saying. So we're both maybe conditioned souls, but we're putting our hearts into it. That's why you feel that way. And that's why I'm also feeling so humbled by the things that are coming. See, it all works out wonderfully. Hare Krishna.
And at those timings, 80,000 sages, without any phone, he's dead. And here, we're looking at you, and then we're listening to the Zoom. And that was really,
But not 80,000 people, though. Not 80,000 people. Even though I have a microphone, but it's not 80,000.
Thank you very much for
no, I'm sorry, I was just messing around. Any other comments or questions now? I don't know. So, Madam Mataji, we can go on forever. Any other questions?
One nice, we were talking earlier about, people that can really see the deities, these advanced devotees that really see.
Yeah, with the eyes.
There's one, I wanted to share one pastime in Srila Prabhupada.
Wonderful.
And Vishnu Prabhu told this, that in New York, this is the Henry Street Temple.
Okay, go ahead.
They would have devotees go on Sankirtan throughout the night. They would go to Broadway and Times Square. And New York is a city that never sleeps. So they would do Sankirtan from like 11 o'clock at night, and they would come back at like 3:30 in the morning. And then they would, take rest. So what they tried to do was they tried to arrange a schedule so that those devotees would still be able to attend Mangalarti, but the time would be too long that they'd have to wait up for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So they moved the Mangalarti back from like 4:30 to, let's just say it was 4 o'clock. Maybe it was different, but say 4:30 to 4 o'clock. A couple months later, Srila Prabhupada, he came to visit. And he took darshan. And his first comment was, the deities look tired.
Okay, so is you waking them up in a different schedule, okay.
Right, so they were waking them up earlier, not giving them, not giving them the regular schedule. And then right after that, they changed the,
Absolutely. What could they do?
The whole program around again.
You see, that means that even if they meant well to do the service, they considered their comfort and their adjustment of time for the service first. So it was, in fact, devotional service, but not in a mode of goodness. So this is a mode of, clearly mode of passion. They want it for themselves, even though it's devotional service. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. When you have ulterior motive that's material, even though you're doing service, that's not even mode of goodness. That's either passion. And if you do things really, really bad and hurt people, when you're doing service, that's mode of ignorance. So this wasn't hurting, but they actually wound up encroaching in deity's rest time. That's not very good. But anyway, yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful you bring these things up. And speaking about that, there's Mangalarti at 5 o'clock in New Vrindavan. I wouldn't even go there. I don't know. It's been 5 o'clock for a long time in New Vrindavan. I don't know the pastime behind that, and I have a feeling I don't want to know how it happened. But anyway, so wonderful pastime.
That reminds me one in Tirupati in India. That Balaji temple is there. He won't have even 1 hour to sleep because whole night we'll have, and again early morning 3 o'clock they will start some other prayings and everything, and then Manglaharati. Before Manglaharati, because there's so many devotees, so there won't be anything. So they have to adjust the timings.
That's the schedule that they've maintained probably for years.
Yeah.
And if Krishna accepts that, then it's all right though. I mean, because there's a pastime, if I could talk about it. Pundarik Vidyanidhi and what's the other one? Swarup Damodar. This is the last pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat. And Swarup Damodar and Pundarik Vidyanidhi, they were talking about the deities in Jagannath and how they were dressed, the deity clothes. They were starched, right? And Swarup Damodar says, but that's the way the deities have been all of these years. Pundarik Vidyanidhi says, no, it shouldn't be that way. This is not the proper way to serve Krishna. Well, what happened? Of course, Jagannath has heard all of that. So at night, Jagannath visited Pundarik Vidyanidhi and says, you dare tell my devotees how to serve me, you pop. The next morning, Pundarik Vidyanidhi met Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar says, what happened to you? Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he's also a high-level devotee, says, I got the mercy. I got the mercy of the deities. They came and showed me who has power, right? So, the point was made. You cannot, when the deities have been served, and one thing is done repeatedly over a period of time, that's in a different category. You don't compare to a short thing like, that's a different category. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi learned his lesson for all of us. His face swelled up. Lord Jagannath beat him. But then he said, all right, I know Lord Jagannath did it. We both know Lord Jagannath did it. So, okay, you're right. So I looked up with that whole question anyway. Hare Krishna. Nice pastime too. That Chaitanya Bhagavat. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Jonah, I think I can't hear you though. Can you mute? Were you trying to speak?
No, I was going to say if there's are there any more?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Any more questions? You can go on with spiritual all day.
Okay. So, thank you again, Parikshit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
It brings sunshine to our Monday morning. Sometimes Monday
today I asked too many questions. Too many questions I asked.
That's good. More questions, better. More questions, better. Actually, you hear the PowerPoint answering questions. One I heard for almost 20 minutes. Devotees enjoyed it very much. So much. So questions are good. Hare Krishna. All right, then. Oh, you have announcements, maybe? I don't know.
No. Tonight we have our Bhagavad Gita happy hour with Balabhadra, 5 o'clock.
Monday,
So please, if you can, tune into
more
that.
Nectar. More nectar.
ISKCON sandwich.
Yeah.
Bhagavatam in the morning.
And in the evening.
Bhagavad Gita in the evening. Okay. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Thank you very much again, Parikshit Prabhu.
Vaishnav Thakur ki. You are the one. Vaishnav Thakur ki.